Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are and whenever you're listening to this. This is Brian Cannon again with another Pause, Reset, Go, looking at how to live your optimal life with all kinds of topics around that. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes in case anybody's going to join us. If you are joining me, please say hello and let me know where you are in the world. I had a wee look today and there was a whole load of people interested who are, I think we had quite a lot in America, a few in Canada and some in South Africa. So it'd be lovely to know if some of you are actually watching this either on the live. Hey, Pam's here on time as usual. That's great, Pam. Love the kite flying, by the way. I saw your video earlier. Which beach was that, Pam? I thought I recognised it. So we're just going to wait a couple of minutes just to see if anybody else joins us. I did put out the little email about 10 minutes ago, so hopefully people will join us. And I know a lot of you catch the replay and don't say hello. Are you shy? Don't be. Come and say hello, even on the replay. Say hi underneath and let me know where you are in the world. And if you've any ideas for topics, etc., and we'll get around to that later on. Okay. So tonight's topic is a bit on the huge side, right? It's can you reset your life? Is it possible? And if so, how do you do it? So for the next 20-25 minutes or so, I'll just give this your intention to give yourself this time. Turn off any distractions, these annoying wee cell phones, mobile phones, whatever you call them, wherever you live in the world. Close any other tabs you've got open in your browser. Tie the kids to a chair. Give them a bit of chocolate, they'll be fine, honest. I'm joking. But you know what I mean. Give yourself peace just to focus on this for the next wee while. So get engaged with it. And if you've any comments or ideas or suggestions or thoughts that come up during the talk, please do type them in the comments and I'll see them here. The only way I know if you're here, by the way, is if you actually say hello, because this software I'm using to broadcast through Facebook doesn't let me see that. All right. So that's it. Let's crack on for tonight's Pause, Reset, Go. So, as I said, resetting your life is a huge topic, and we can only cover some of it tonight, all right, because there's so much that goes into it. There's so much that goes on there. Hi, Carmel, lovely of you to join us. Fab to see you here. So it is really a huge topic, this resetting your life. And some of you who are watching may have done the reset program with me last year, the kind of beta of it. We tried out some things last year and had some successes from that. I know I've got one person I'd really like to interview on this, especially who's volunteered already to do that. And we might do that in a couple of weeks if I can sort it out. So this thing about resetting your life, what we're going to look at tonight is why would you want to? All right, and under what circumstances would you want to reset your life? And would you want to reset all of it or part of it? And for what reason would you be doing it? Okay. When is it possible to reset your life? Okay. And that's a big issue that a lot of people come up with because they think sometimes, and we've talked about before, that time being on our side, I think that was episode 20 or something like that, that you can actually do it any time, but we'll get into that a wee bit more. And then we're going to get on to some of the how. As much as I can fit into this 25 minutes, half hour with you, if you'll allow me that. Is that all right? So I think there's somebody else who's viewing but not saying hello, but that's fine. You don't have to. So this idea about resetting, why would you want to reset? And I'm going to give you a personal example in a minute or two, but really this kind of falls to the people I've coached over the last few years. The reason they want to reset some part of their life is they're seeing some negative emotion coming through in their life. So it's usually something like stress, but it can equally be boredom. It can also be frustration, sometimes leading to anger, all right, which can be misplaced at times. Or they can be just simply unhappy and ultimately depressed about their lives. Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to say that I can fix depression, all right? That's not what I do. I help you move from A to B. But it's one of the reasons why people sometimes want to move from A to B is to get away from this depressive state. All right. Makes sense? Good stuff. So the first thing we talked about there about, there's some need not being met. if we're stressed, bored, unhappy, frustrated, whatever that negative emotion is, angry, right? There's some need not being it. It's usually to do with a mixture of these needs and perhaps even some aspect of your personality that's held you back from achieving those things, all right? And I'll come on to that with a wee example about me in a minute, okay? So the 6 needs, just to recap, we've mentioned them quite a lot, are certainty and paradoxically variety and significance and love and connection, and then the spiritual ones for growth and contribution. All right, so you might want to keep them in the back of your mind when we're going through this, just about what the needs are that you're meeting in various areas of your life or not meeting, or that you're maybe meeting in a negative way. We've talked about that before, that you can actually meet these needs for variety. You'll get a lot of variety if you're stressed out your head sometimes, you know. You'll get a lot of significance if you've got a really high-level job, but again, coming with that can be variety in the form of stress, and also a decrease in love connection if you're spending too much time at work, all that kind of stuff. All right, so, and then there's the stuff about growth and contribution. You can sometimes feel a bit stifled in life, like you're not being allowed to do what you want to do, you know? And that can be a really horrible feeling that can wear you down after a while. So I said I'd mention this personal example. Now, you've probably heard it before for any of you who've watched any of my shows before, or I tend to talk about myself rather than any of my other coaching clients, because I've done everything wrong in life if I could, you know, and I tried to put it right. So if you've heard this story before, please feel free to, you know, sit and twiddle your thumbs for a second. So I'd done all the right things and worked my way up in my career, and I was fairly high status regional marketing manager for a very large multinational here in Scotland. And I was doing all the right things career-wise, but I was miserable as sin, and it was literally and metaphorically killing me with stress and insomnia, and I was a miserable sod, and I decided I had to reset. And there was a whole load of stuff when I looked into this that came out as to why I needed to reset. And it wasn't just about resetting what job I had, it was about resetting me. Okay, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So how did I know I needed to do it? And it wasn't just a blip, all right? It wasn't just something that happened once. I could see that it was a recurring negative emotional state over a long time. I had been in a state of stress for, at that point, about 6 years. Really stressed, all right? And some of the stress I brought upon myself by my decisions and my behaviours, all right? That led to a lot of unhappiness, and it actually led to health issues with insomnia for me for about 5 or 6 years, on and off, medicated and all that stuff, before I finally got coaching, which sorted it out. All right, so I knew it was a long-term problem, and there was something I needed to reset in me. It wasn't just about finding a new job. It was about finding something in me that I needed to reset, because you need to be the change that you want to see. So, coming on to some of this stuff for tonight. Where's my wee thing gone? Oh, there it is. I lost a button. Never mind. How can you check if you need to do this? Right? How can you sit and think to yourself, do I need to reset some or all parts of my life? So one of the kind of simplest tools to do this with is with the Wheel of Life. Okay, and I've talked about it before. It's a very basic tool that a lot of coaches use on the very first time they talk to somebody. All right, so if you want to grab a template for this, if you haven't done it before, I'm going to show on the screen, hopefully. There we go. There's a wee thing going across the bottom of the screen here that'll give you an address. So it's just a bit.ly address, which is that wee shortener thing. And it's BC Wheel, so http whatever, bit.ly/BC Wheel. All right. And in fact, that's quite annoying scrolling there. So let's just have it like that. Okay. So if you go there, unfortunately, I can't make that clickable. Facebook doesn't allow that. Okay. But if you go there and you can type in your name and address, email address as usual, and it'll send you instantly the Wheel of Life template. And what you can do then is you can start to do that Wheel of Life exercise, to sit down and think about, okay, where is my Wheel of Life getting a bit bumpy? Now, I've talked about this over and over again, and I love this because it's a simple and elegant tool, right? And it really does let you. Has anybody here done it recently? Okay, I can see there's a few viewers on, and so has anybody done a Wheel of Life recently? Even, or tell me how long ago you last did one. Because one of the other things you can do, this is Pam's my show off with my fancy wee things down the bottom here. It's all the software, Pam. It's dead easy to use, honest. So, when did you last do it? Right? Okay, when did you last do one? Do you do it regularly? Do you do it once a year? Maybe every 6 months? Some people do it as part of a journaling exercise, maybe monthly or something like that, you know, and I'm always a big advocate of journaling, as you know. And what you want to look for there is, what are the bumpy areas? So in my case, it was career, but it was actually starting to affect home life and family as well, because at the time my career was going pear-shaped, my wife was pregnant with our first child as well. So you can imagine what kind of hullabaloo that caused. So you look at this Wheel of Life, and you can see that, you know, even though there's individual segments in there, and you can have as many segments as you like, okay? There's the usual things about career, family, love, relationships, and some of them can kind of fit with the 6 needs a wee bit as well, you'll see. Money, you know, your relationship with money, where you live and your environment, all that kind of stuff. But they're actually all kind of interconnected because they'll all have a wee influence on the other ones round about them. So have a look at that. You may need help to see some of the connections of what's bleeding into, if you like, other areas. But you can usually see that 1 or 2 areas are starting to go up and down at the same time. And that's a bit of a trend, if you like, for that. So if you are too close to that and you can't really see it, maybe sitting down with a good coach, if you know any, or if you maybe sit down with a friend or your partner and kind of have a look at that together, or somebody you trust to say what you think, because often we're too close to this stuff, and have a look at that Wheel of Life and start to think about in there, is everything, what need isn't being met where something's going wrong? You know, is there a need that's not being met? Am I compromising my values? Now, I'm going on a lot about values because it's kind of our bedrock for how we behave. You know, is your values kind of, they determine your thinking and your behavior later, your values that you hold. And in some of the values I held, one of the values actually I can tell you about that I held in my last corporate job. I worked for a private medical company, which is unusual here in the UK. All right, it's unusual. We have the NHS here, the National Health Service. All right. And I'm quite, I think the word is left in my politics. And I believe that everybody should have equal access to these things. You know, I was almost like, don't turn off, please, Americans, it's socialist, all right? That you should have access to these things. We all paid for them, we should all have access to them. And that my values were that everybody should have open access to the fastest possible medical care they can get. And not just those that can queue jump because they've got more money. All right. So it didn't sit well with my values. Now, whether you agree with my values or not, it didn't work for me. All right. And it was one of the reasons that things kind of fell off. So have a look at that wee tool and think about, you know, looking at areas of that. And what I would suggest you do is do it now. Maybe do it in a couple of months again. And then again, and just try to look at, you can keep a wee jotter pad or just print them out and looking at them and see what trends you notice. You know, is your career always down? Is your family always down? What else is maybe down? You know, your money might be really up. Mine was when my career felt terrible to me. It was killing me. And my family was down because I wasn't seeing them. And I wasn't supporting my wife properly, as I saw it. So you start to see trends in these things, and it's a really simple wee tool. So go over there and on that wee link down there, and just, I think it's first name and email address, and it'll send it to you immediately. All right. And you can go and do that at some point. So look at the areas of your life in there and start to think, is there a pattern of feeling of negative emotions that keep coming back around? You know, if you journal, you'll see this. And this is why I keep going on about journaling all the time. And I'm doing it religiously again. You know, I do it every night before I go to bed, and I keep a wee scribble pad of thoughts during the day as well. And a different pad I keep down here but I keep my journal by my bed so I can do it just before I switch the light off at night. Right, so have a wee look to see if there's negative emotions that are coming around often and in what circumstances, because that'll tell you what part of your life you need to reset, where it is in your life that you need to reset, and then you might need some help to see the underlying causes to that. And what I mean by that is, you might see that, you know, like, I'll take my example again. Money was great, career seemed to be brilliant, right? Because I was in this nice high-flying job and all the rest of it, nice big package. But my family score was feeling wrong for me, and my health was wrong. And when I looked at that, it came around to a few things that I started to think about. Actually, do you know what? I know what's wrong in here. What's been going on with me that's caused this negative emotion later on, caused this stress, caused this insomnia, caused the stress-related illness that I had back then? And what I discovered was there was some things that I'd been doing in life that needed to change. I'd been people-pleasing, right? I'm very non-confrontational most of the time. I like to keep things in a win-win, all right? But I'd been too much that way, and people were taking advantage of it. And it was to the extent that it was actually affecting me negatively. I wasn't assertive enough in saying, no, this is the way it's got to be, to protect myself, to set some boundaries. So I discovered I hadn't been doing that enough. And as a result, my self-esteem, my confidence, which were normally very high, suddenly took a nosedive, especially when I had to leave that corporate job because of health issues. And my self-esteem and confidence took a nosedive, and I had to rediscover them. And I had to think about, okay, how can I get that back? How can I get that feeling back? I know it's in there. I think it's Sid Banks in the 3 principles who says we all have innate mental health, meaning good mental health. So it's just somehow we'll lose it through something that's going on with it. So I needed to rediscover that. And I needed to learn to take risks because I'd never been much of a risk taker, all right, for me to reset my life. So what did my reset look like? Well, it meant I went and started a company. At that time, I'd been a marketing manager, so I started a marketing consultancy, looking at kind of strategic stuff and managing budgets and that, and it did great. It was fab. I had picked the work I wanted. It was mainly local. I wasn't having to travel too far. I had a few jobs in the north of Scotland. It's a wee country, so we don't have to go that far. It's about 3.5 hours to the other end. That's it. So things were pretty tickety-boo when I sorted that, but I still needed to sort some of those other things internally, especially with the people-pleasing, because I was underpricing at some points. HTTP address does not exist. Sorry about that, Robin. Okay, I checked that earlier. Let me just pull up the wee file, and I'll quickly check that while I'm talking. All right, and I'll put the other one up, whatever's right. Right, okay. So, where was it? Yeah, I decided I had to do some work on myself. It wasn't just about changing the job, as I said. So let me just get this wee file open, and we'll see if this works. We'll get that up for you by the end, Robin. Don't worry. I'll give you the full address if we have to. I was hoping that worked. Talk amongst yourselves. Right. I'll do that in a sec, Robin. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Robin, where are you in the world? I don't recognise you as being somebody that's been on here before. So let me just take that off just now until we get the right one. So what happened was I had to rediscover some of these things, and I had to go and do a bit of work on myself and reset. And eventually it got down to, it took me a while, right? I kind of fell into the marketing consultancy. It worked great for a long time until I discovered the coaching and discovered my real purpose in life, the stuff I love doing. It's 8 o'clock on a Thursday night here. There's football on the telly, and I'm sitting doing this because I love it. I love helping people through this stuff. It's my life purpose. I've finally found it. So I think the best thing to do is give you some questions to ask yourself that you can use to decide what, if anything, you need to reset. So look at those areas on your wheel of life and look at your journaling and see, are you Are you losing something there? Is there a repeat trend of negative emotion somewhere in some part of your life, and what could be triggering that? And sometimes you have to look underneath that to see what might be within your personality or within the way you do things or your values and beliefs that's causing you to behave in that way. Right, we've talked about values and beliefs quite a lot in previous shows. Once you've decided that something needs to change, be cognizant, be aware, it's going to affect other areas of your life. So when I decided, yeah, I'm packing in corporate, well, I didn't really decide, I had it foisted on me, really. I had to pack in the corporate stuff, right? It had a major impact on us financially and security, especially with a new baby. I mean, I actually stopped working about 3 days after my first child was born, which is 10 years ago now. She's 10 now. And stopped working in corporate. And it took that huge risk just to say no and step out. So what you have to think about is your why, if you're really serious about resetting some part of your life, whether it's your career or you or something else in there or the way you do things, whatever it is. Thanks, Pam. Pam's just put up the full thing. I'll just put this up on the screen. Right. I don't know why the Bitly's not worked because it creates it automatically, but there's the full one on the screen just now. Robin, if you're still there, you can go to briancannum.com/wheel of life and you'll get the wee thing just to fill in and automatically send it off to you. Thanks, Pam. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. So, you have to look at this idea. If you're going to reset it, are you really going to reset it? Right, here's an interesting one. I'm just going to show this other thing. I'll put Pam's back up in a minute. What's Carmel saying here is that's exactly what she's thought. People approach her differently now, not being nasty, but not taking rudest or aggressive people's attitudes on board and getting wounded. I fired a lovely, polite message right back. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Because, that's just, you're not people pleasing. You're not having to absorb any negativity from other people. You're actually just take it at face value. Some people say the most horrible things and you just don't know what's going on with them in their life. You just don't know. There was an old story, I can't remember whose book it was in, but I remember reading, a story of a chap goes into a bar, or it could be a coffee shop or anything, and asked for whatever it is, coffee, and the guy behind the bar is really rude, really surly with him. Now, your natural inclination is to go, who does he think he is? Talk to me like that, Sometimes that's our natural, in modern aggressive society. But this person, they instantly diffused it by saying, "Are you all right? Are you okay? Is there something wrong?" And then the bar person or barista obviously said, "Oh, having a bad day, sorry," and apologised, rather than escalating it. So it was a really clever thing to do. So I'm just going to put this one back up from Pam just now so you've got that little BC Wheel of Life thing there. So we're talking about the questions you need to ask yourself if you're seriously considering resetting life. Now, I'm not talking about making a wee tweak. I'm not talking about maybe just building your confidence. I'm talking about seriously moving your life in a different direction. All right, so for me, it was going, twice I've done it, it was going from employed and on that career path that I'd been on for 20 plus years. I know I don't look it. And then, deciding to leave that behind and strike out on my own. And then again, when that was going well, and it was going great, I discovered coaching, had coaching, learned about coaching, and learned NLP and various other techniques, and I got the bug in such a way I just knew this is it. This is what I've been looking for, right? And my why was big enough for me then to close my marketing consultancy, which was doing really well 3 years ago, and just say, no, I'm going to concentrate on this coaching stuff because I love it. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't envisage me ever retiring from this stuff. I'm sorry, folks, you're stuck with me until they carry me out in a box, right? If they still do that by the time I die, I don't know, maybe I don't know, make you into a diamond or something. All right. So is your why about resetting your life to make this major change in your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's career, whether it's money, whether it's mindset, whatever it is your why big enough? Because believe me, there are going to be some tough times ahead for you to make that happen. And I say tough times because not everybody around you will appreciate the change that you're going to make. All right. Some of you might have experienced that. You might have, if you've made a small change in the past, or you've reset something in the past, you might see that not everybody comes with you. All right. So you may have to leave some people behind, or maybe change your relationship with some people, upset them temporarily, because people will have their little constricted view of, that's who you are. That's who I know you as. Okay. You're Brian, the marketing manager. That's it. And then when I turned around and said, no, I'm Brian, the marketing consultant, oh, that's only a wee shift. And then when I turned around and said, no, actually, I'm Brian, the coach and author of a book, people were a bit, not sure about it. I don't know if that's you. So some of those people have drifted off from it, and that's fine. They might come back at the right time. But again, I'm not people pleasing. I'm not going chasing them. All right. You have to decide if your why is big enough. My why was huge because I realized this is what I was meant to do. All along in my life, this is what I was meant to do. All right. So be ready to leave some people behind and be ready to upset some people. Be ready to have some difficult conversations. And your why, about why you're doing this. What value is it that you're doing this for? What's the belief system you're using that's making you think about resetting your life in any way? I know a fantastic businesswoman who's really reset her life over the last year or so, and she's done amazing things, absolutely amazing things, and she's doing even more, and she's doing some big. But I think there were difficulties along the way because, again, people put us in our little pigeonholes, and we don't quite fit there anymore. So some people are going to get upset with you, and your why has to be big enough to help you through that. It really has to be big enough to help you through it. So don't shilly-shally about this stuff. It's something you've got to make a conscious decision about and actually decide, are you willing to put the effort in? Are you willing to take some of the sacrifices, some of the upset that might come along, but equally, what happens when it goes right? I think it was Maya Angelou that says that, the little girl says, oh, but what happens if I fall? And she says, oh, but my darling, what happens if you fly? What's those effect? And I love that. All right. What happens if it really goes right? And it's gone right for me, and I hope it goes right for you. One of the other things you need to think about is how you're going to make these changes, right? And this is a massive topic, and I can't cover it all tonight. We're already at 27 minutes, all right? And I want to get any questions in if we can as well. Is you need to have a think about the structure of what you're changing. And anybody who's done reset with me will have seen that structure that I use for this. And you have to think about the timing of what you're going to do and what priorities are. What has to come first? What's the end game? What are all the steps in between? And then, okay, what order do I do them in? And is there stuff I need to do that about me before I start making the changes externally? Is there things or at the same time? Is there things I need to do for me internally? Like I said, I had to work on stopping people pleasing. I had to get my self-esteem and confidence back up because I felt I'd failed in corporate, by getting all stressed and everything. I hadn't been assertive enough, so I had to work on that, and I had to get very, very clear about what do I want. What is it I want? I kind of drifted into the marketing consultancy, and it was great fun. It was a really lucky, happy accident, but it was a kind of accident. But what did I really want? And it wasn't until I had coaching and I realized you can sit down with somebody and do this stuff. I thought, my God, that's what I want to do. This stuff, that's right now, that's what I want to do, helping people through coaching and through this training and helping people avoid the mistakes I made and hopefully do some of the right things that I've subsequently done. So I realise I've kept you already for nearly half an hour already. Is there any questions anybody wants to ask before we kind of wrap up for tonight? I know that was a quick fire shoot through things to think about in resetting your life. If you go away after this and you think, oh, I should have asked this, just come back and stick it in the comments and I'll gladly answer it if I can. All right. So if you're watching the replay and you want to ask a question similarly, stick it in the comments. I keep an eye on them all. I get all the notifications and I'll reply to you. If you want to send a question anonymously, write to me at brian@briancanavan.com. Let me just see if I can get that on the screen again. Here, I'll have another one. There we go. I'll just put that up on the screen. All right, I should have done this earlier. So there's my email address. So if you want to ask a question anonymously, stick it in there. Or go over to briancanavan.com. You'll see right at the top there's a big, lovely picture of me posing somewhere in Glasgow. All right, and right beside it, on that picture, there's a button that you can request a free 30-minute chat with me. It's not a sales call. It's a chat to see if coaching is something that could help you. All right. So, as always, thank you all for spending your time with me. I realise your time's precious, and especially if you're watching this at night, when you can be away doing, I'm sure, much more fun things, but maybe not some things quite as important. Before I go, can I please ask if you have any ideas for topics about what I can talk about? If there's anything that this has sparked with you or made you think about, then again, let me know. You can message the page, and you can write to me at brian@briancanavan.com if you want to keep it anonymous, your question or idea that you want to talk about. One of the other things I'm seriously considering doing is doing a wee quick kind of mini coaching session with somebody live on here. All right, and it will be free because you're putting yourself through this to make it live. All right, I've seen somebody else, one of the people I really respect, who coaches doing the same thing, and it seems to work really well to let people see what it's actually all about. All right, so if you're interested in that, please do write to me at brian@briancanavan.com and just express your interest, or have a chat with me first on that little thing on the website at briancanavan.com, and you'll see it's called a call to action bar. I think it's a wee orange bar if you scroll down, and it'll say book a free session with me, and we can have a 30-minute chat. All right, and it shows you when my diary is available and all that stuff. So if you have any challenges you've got to overcome soon, or you've got something going on with you and you think, yeah, I could be up for a bit of free coaching, we might do maybe a wee bit extended on this. And you don't need any fancy software. I just send you a link and you'll be able to, as long as you've got a webcam and a mic, which is usually built into most machines these days. I'll get some fancy external ones. But if you've got those, we can do it. All right, hopefully. So if you're interested in that, please do let me know. And if you think of anybody else that might be interested, please share this as well. And please do share it, because you just never know who it's going to help. And it helps me get the word out there as well, obviously, to help more people if I can. So thank you again for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it, all of you, and any of you who's watching the replay, wherever you are and whenever you are in the world. Go do some of this stuff. Have some fun with it, and see what comes out for you, and have a wee play with it. And I'll hopefully see some of you next week. Bye for now. I'm going to remember to turn my mic off this week, Pam, because I forgot last week.